Okay.
Am I in the right place?
Zoning Board of Appeals?
Okay.
Then you're in the right place. You're in the right place, sir.
Stonebridge, present.
Okay, I'm opening the Thursday, September 15th Zoning Board of Appeal meeting. It is 7:02. And I'm going to start off with our first agenda item, which is the Dixon hearing continued for 36 Main Street. Kathy, do we have a request? Got an email from the applicant. No, not all packet. We get an email from the applicant. For some reasons, I had it in my head that the zoning board meeting started at 7:30 this evening. So I was late, my apologies. This is an email that came after our last meeting. I believe the board meets on the third Thursday every month. I have a friend visiting from out of town and will be away the week you meet in September. Would it be possible to request putting it on the agenda for the 20th? So I would take that as a request to continue to our October meeting on the 20th. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Second agenda item, Scott hearing, 9 Rush Pond Road. And I can see the applicants are in the audience, so. Lakeville Zoning Board of Appeals, acting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, as amended, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, September 15th at 7 p.m. in the Lakeville Public Library, 4 Precinct Street, upon the petition of Richard D. Scott. Special permit under 6.3.2 and 7.4.6 is requested to install a 12-foot by 18-foot shed within the front setback on a pre-existing non-conforming lot as provided by the Lakeville bylaws. The property site is 9 Rush Pond Road. Okay, Mr. Scott, before I read some other information I have in the packet, why don't you come on up and tell us what you're looking to do?
Sure. At the last town meeting, after it was over, I approached Nate and told him I was going to be talking to him about getting a permit to put a shed on my property, and he said, Dick, it's not that simple because you have a 3/4 acre lot. So I went ahead and took 7 trees down and hired a surveyor to make sure I had all the exact locations of everything. And to my surprise, I found out that Lakeville owns more land on my setback from the street than I realized. And lo and behold, I'm intruding 10 foot into the 40-foot setback, so it's about a 30-foot setback. If I were to move the shed, it would not be oriented in a aesthetically pleasing way, and I would have to take additional trees down. So I'm requesting a special permit. I think it will be a nice shed. I've looked at Reed's Ferry, I've looked at some other builders that put together substantial sheds, and it's an attractive shed, and it will allow me to allow my wife to have her part of the garage back. And like many people, I have too much stuff. I haven't downsized yet because the kids still haven't taken all their stuff. But to make a long story short, I need a little bit more space, and I'm asking for a favorable decision.
So you're going to use your wife as a reason for making us give you
Pretty
this
much.
permit.
This is my wife, Janet, and I'd like to introduce her to the board.
That's a good move, because we all like Janet, so.
Thank you.
I'm willing to take the blame as long as he puts his stuff someplace else, but in my parking space.
We can make that a condition of the permit if you'd like. So.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
I mean, if you just moved it 10 feet, you wouldn't need a permit.
Well, that is correct, and it would then be directly behind a gazebo that I put in many years ago for a hot tub, and again, it wouldn't really look that good. I spoke to all my neighbors, including ones who are not direct abutters, and I showed them a little picture of what it looks like, and they basically said, you got to put your stuff somewhere. But you're right. I could theoretically move it further, over, but right now it sits off of my garage at the end of a driveway extension, and it's just a logical spot for it. And, you know, I appeal to the board on that regard, and if I don't get the permit, then I will probably just use a temporary shelter in the wintertime. What really put me over the top, besides the fact that my wife said I couldn't buy a new car unless she could park it in her side, was the fact that I bought a used tractor, which the mice just love to put a nest in the motor every winter. So I'm trying to avoid that problem.
Okay, let me read a couple of, not a couple, I think we just have one memo, correct, Kathy? No, we have two. We have two, yep, thanks. We have a couple of memos from a couple of other boards in regards to this petition. From the Lakeville Board of Health, we received a copy of the petition for hearing of 9 Rush Pond Road. Since the shed does not contain any plumbing or sewer and is not within 10 feet of an existing septic system, the shed will not affect the septic system. Thus, the Board of Health has no objections to the proposed shed. That was dated September 7th. We also have a memo from the Planning Board dated September 13th. At their Thursday, August 25th meeting, the Planning Board reviewed the above referenced petition for hearing from the Board of Appeals. The board has no comments regarding this petition. So, basically, it looks like, to surmise here, you have an issue with the front setback, that it's going to only be 30.3 feet from the road. And it's supposed to be 40 feet, so you're looking for 9.7 feet in relief. I think that pretty much sums it up.
That's correct.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or anything they want to comment on in regards to this petition? I know you had mentioned that I'm guessing what happened is here, you have the paved roadway that the town put in, and right-of-way goes into your front lawn, is my guess. Do you know how much?
Actually, it's a side lawn, but that's an accurate
Do we have an estimate, or can we figure out from this?
It's usually around 10 feet.
Can you tell me what that is, Jeff? I think you know where I'm going.
Yeah, I know what you're going. It's 40. Then if this is 40 feet, so you're looking at from the actual paved surface is probably 10 feet. That's
So
usually
from the
what
paved surface, you'd be compliant, but the problem is,
the layout.
you don't own your side yard all the way to the street.
That is
down
correct.
there, Which happens in a lot of cases with a lot of folks.
Yep.
To be honest with you, when we laid out the garage, we talked about having a 3-car garage, but the architect discouraged us from it, saying that the addition would be larger than the house and didn't make any sense. But we did put the driveway extension at that location, thinking that we were going to be 40 foot away from it. The issue was my misunderstanding of just how far that right-of-way comes in. And because I have a pie-shaped lot, it
Yep.
bends
Right.
Yep.
around the roadway.
So you are 40 feet from the actual road itself.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Is that right of way a sidewalk of any type, or just?
It's the sidewalk, and then it comes into a mulched area. And everybody in the neighborhood's happy with the sidewalk, so we didn't want to intrude on that. And again, I just didn't realize it came past the sidewalk as to where I would be measuring. In fact, the drawing shows it pretty clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the audience that has any comments in regards to this petition? Mark, anything you want to add?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Well, I would entertain a motion if anyone was inclined to grant the special permit or deny it.
I'll make a motion to grant a special permit. The reason, a shed's not a permanent structure. It can move.
Motion made to grant the special permit. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion amongst the board? Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So, we didn't put it in there, but make sure you let her do what she wants with the garage now.
There is no question.
Kathy?
Yeah,
You're up.
we have 14 days to do the paperwork.
And then the orders.
Right. It goes to the town clerk for 20 days, and then, you know how
I
it goes.
haven't ordered it because the company I want to order it from had a 50% deposit with no refunds. And I felt that I should wait until everything was kosher. So
It's a total of 34 days before you can begin work.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, board.
Bye-bye.
All right. Third agenda item, TAC Vega LLC. This is the continued 310 Kenneth Welch Drive, which is requesting variance to increase their density bonus because they're having parking issues. So I believe I see someone in the back who is here to represent the applicant.
I am.
And so you've taken care of some of it with the planning board, and you're back here to see if you can square it up with us or get some relief from us.
Exactly right.
So tell us where you are.
So, Terrence Russell from Epstein Global in Chicago, and we've been working with the building owner for a number of months now, trying to get the parking issue resolved and make planning happy. After the meeting in July that we had a number of meetings with the building owner and went back and looked at the plan, and we found if we could increase the site coverage to about 77%, we could add another 41 spots, which brings the total number of parking on site up to 250 spots. The problem with that is that we are in the wetlands, so those will have to be mitigated. We realize that, and we know we have to go through the Conservation Commission. However, none of our consultants have started work on that until we get the blessing from Lakeville, both planning and zoning. So with that, I think we make a substantial dent in the number of cars that are actually needed on that site.
So we're looking for an extra 7%, correct?
Overall, 7%.
And
Previously,
you're-
it was 73%. We've just upped
Right.
it the extra 4.
Well, it's 70 now, you were looking for
Yes.
73, and now you've gone the extra
77.
77, extra 4. So are you confident that this will take care of the parking issue? Because my personal concern is if we were to go forward and grant the variance, which I don't know if that will or will not happen, but if we were, we don't need to see this back before us again, because we still have cars parked on the road and we still have people parking where they're not supposed to park.
That
How
actually-
confident?
Yeah, well, it will, the way the lease is stated with each of the tenants in the building is that the building owner will provide X number of spots per tenant. If the tenant requires any additional spots beyond that, it's up to the tenant to find the spots for their employees. So we're confident that this will make a good progress in solving the issue. Going forward, I think it would, the onus of actually addressing any additional spots would fall on the building tenants, and that would be in the form of leasing space elsewhere and using a shuttle service to get employees to that spot. But given the constraints of the site, the size of the site, the size of the existing building, this is really the maximum that we can provide on this site.
With a variance from us.
Correct, with the variance from the zoning board.
Which is within our purview to do in the bylaws. So, Mark, I know we did a little research on what other communities and other industrial, commercial areas allow. Is it uncommon for them to go over 70%?
No, it's not uncommon. Many towns, are 80%. Some towns have, for example, when I was in Foxborough, they have no lot coverage requirement. So many towns don't have a lot coverage requirement. They have setback requirements, buffering requirements. And presumably, if you meet all those, you can build up to those other lines, internal lines, and design your parking and your development within those things. So they have the setbacks and for buildings, for parking, buffering, intended to protect the abutters, and that's what they use as opposed to, now here we have both. You can have belt and suspenders. It's not really necessary, so.
I'm opening it up to the rest of the board. Who has some questions? I'm sure folks do.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's, this is a warehouse, and now you're putting 250 parking spaces in there. That means you at least have 250 employees, correct?
Between the two tenants, yes, there's about 250. So the numbers that we had received from the tenants
Okay.
was that there's a minimum of about 100 per tenant.
Yep.
That goes to about 125, depending on whether or not there's a harvest taking place within the building or production, something like that. So we're told that there's right around 250.
Then the question I have is that septic system. It's not our purview, but I think this is when you go design the septic system to take care of those 250 people, you're going to have another massive headache.
Well, the building owner, I can tell you this, the building owner is working with another consultant on the septic system. So that's not part of my contract with them.
Okay.
We're just concerned about getting parking
Yeah.
for the tenants.
It's none of our, it's not our purview either. But I just see, in my own brain, I can see, because I'm president of an engineering firm. and
Sure.
I can see that it's going to be a headache, and they may have to move their septic system, and then when they start, you can build a parking lot over a septic system, you just have to vent it. But
Correct.
it's going to be an issue, and you may be back but ideally, if we grant you the permit, I'd be goodbye and we never see you again, but I have a feeling.
Well, I believe that the building owner has another consultant that specializes in septic systems.
Okay.
So, and I know they are addressing that issue with other consultants.
Right, but I just wondered, that was the only concern I have, is how many times you're gonna be back in front of us when they have to move something here or there.
Well, I actually hope this is it for zoning. Planning, I think I've committed to at least one more.
At least one more
Yeah.
planning board.
At least one more planning board, but.
Other questions, or, go ahead, Chris.
Has the fire department seen the final parking lot layout? Have they done the swept analysis? Can they get their vehicles in there?
They have not seen it yet. Again, we're waiting, but our engineers have software that simulate the turning radiuses of trucks and fire trucks. So we've already run it through those, and from the fire lane, from each side, the east and the west side, a fire truck can be maneuvered through there safely. In fact, that's one of the reasons we didn't put any islands, any hard islands or painted islands in the center portion of parking, because that can be used for trucks or fire trucks if need be.
So then it's just dealing with conservation that you have to deal with.
Conservation, we need to update the landscape plan that we had last time. Lighting, it's a whole windfall of consultants to update.
Are you using rain gardens to alleviate some of the stormwater? Or how are you dealing with that with all the impervious?
Stormwater has not been designed yet.
Okay.
As soon as we get the go-ahead, then we'll start in earnest on the stormwater design.
All right, so we could issue this based on final fire department approval. That would be okay with you, and then
Absolutely.
stormwater and conservation.
Yep.
If we so move to.
We could put those
Well,
contingencies.
Yeah, and when we get the stormwater and the other revisions, we will submit them to the other boards before the planning board issues final site plan approval, so.
Any other questions from other board members? I'm going to pick your brain. What could we do as a town to reassure me and the town as a whole that we alleviate the parking across the street on other properties, et cetera, going forward. Any alternatives we have to condition if we were so inclined to grant the variance? Again, my concern is, I get it, it's not necessarily the building owner all the time, it's gonna be the tenant, but if we say, listen, we're good, 77%, I don't want 6 months from now, we have people still parking everywhere that they,
Well,
that
actually,
they shouldn't be.
in July after we met, I got a hold of the building owner that night. I went back to the hotel and gave him a call. And their building management system wrote the tenants a letter specifically instructing them not to park at all on Kenneth Welch Drive. And that letter went out at the beginning of August. Unfortunately, the tenants didn't abide by what the landlord had requested.
Most people don't, unless there's some teeth in it. So what can we do?
Well, so I think most people do, what they want. Like you go to a gym and people park on the grass in front, right? Because they don't want to walk the extra 20 or 30 feet, although they're going to go exercise. So the same thing I envision here. Someone's not going to want to park in the way back and walk all the way around the building because it is a building to whichever door they end up having to go to.
Right.
So since we are providing, or you will be, the building owner will be providing an adequate number of spaces on site, that I think we need to require that they do something to ensure that people don't park where we don't want them to park anymore once those spaces are built. So what I'd recommend is that the zoning board, since we're discussing it here, require that upon completion of the parking lot, that the building owner and install a guardrail along that side of Kenneth Welch Drive to prevent people from parking along that side. And I think, maybe, and you would have to go to the Board of Selectmen to get that permission because it's a town road, but I think that given the ongoing issue that, hopefully will be resolved by the additional parking, that, putting in a few hundred feet of perhaps a wooden guardrail or a metal guardrail, I don't know what the board would want to require, is kind of solve the problem permanently. So, but I would ask the board to, if you added that condition to be after the construction is complete, people have been parking there for a while and the tenants need space. There'll be construction, people will be, but once it's done, I think that should be installed.
What about no parking signs?
You could do that with the sign. The problem is, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult, the problem is most people are creatures of habit.
Yes.
And if I've been parking there for 6 months or a year, and to Mark's point, now all of a sudden you're telling me, oh, we have spots for you, but it's a 400-yard walk or a 400-foot walk. Well, if I can just pull it up here anyways and no one's ever towed it, yeah, we get told, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But if you basically say, you just can't get there anymore, there's an impediment. You can't get through it. I think we're looking to figure out how to solve this permanently.
Okay.
I think that's a great solution. Having some type of barrier there, yeah.
Are these technically parking violations that could be enforced?
Well, there's a couple things. And short answer is no, because I don't think that is posted as not. Again, this falls under the selectmen's purview, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. I mean, the selectmen would have to make that a no parking zone, and then they'd have to, police would have to issue
Police would
tickets.
have to
and this
go
and that, the
by
other
and
thing.
make tickets.
We could condition it to say if you have complaints, go to the building commissioner, then, after so many times, we're gonna do something. If you just get rid of the option, it's fenced off, you just can't go there. Right? You tell your kid, don't go in the closet, don't go in the closet. You lock the closet, the kid can't get in the closet. You don't have to worry about punishing him if he does go in.
You're absolutely right.
So. let me ask you this, do you want to confirm a couple of these things with your client first, or would you?
To see if they'd be agreeable to doing that?
Yeah, agreeable to doing that, and, maybe, I don't know if they want to check with the Board of Selectmen first. I mean, we can, I have no problem, seeing if someone wants to make a motion, but if we make a motion and it were a positive motion with this condition on it, and they really don't want to agree to that condition, I'm not so sure how helpful that would be to you. If that
Well,
makes-
this is obviously spending their money that they hadn't anticipated, so I need to check with them
Yeah.
first.
Well, but I think it's a condition that should be attached to this, and, I can't imagine, given the cost of a few hundred feet of guardrail versus the cost, what they've been spending on trying to improve that building for the tenants and for the parking and everything, it's a very small percentage. And, of the overall cost, and maybe it's not budgeted, but I think it really solves the issue permanently, and then it puts the onus on any tenants who are going to be exceeding the capacity to lease some space and get a shuttle bus. It puts
Fine
it
by
on
me.
the tenants, so.
Okay, you said that would have to involve another permit and another hearing? Or is this something that we?
Well, I think we would be able to, they would be able to vote with this condition tonight, so that you're done with the zoning board, and then go to finish the drainage, lighting, landscaping, all those other items, file the amended plans with the planning board, get those reviewed.
Sure.
And at some point, file a request with the Board of Selectmen saying that after construction, we would like to install a guardrail and get their okay to do that, so that you're kind of all lined up for when the parking is open, that you then come in and install the guardrail. So.
Go ahead, Jeff.
The guardrail would be part of our permit, if we grant them the permit.
Right, and
We'd make it a condition of the
Make it a
permit.
condition
that
of the
The
permit.
only way you're going to be able to do this is if you agree to that. The only extra step they'd have to take is because it's on town property, the selectmen would have to authorize them to
Right.
put it up.
if the selectmen, let's say, approve bollards instead, they could come back and at least, I don't think you necessarily need another hearing, but if selectmen didn't want to approve any barrier, then I think they would have to come back and have a
Yeah, if they approve,
discussion with the board about.
if they approve no variance, so we're just not allowing anything, then yeah, unfortunately, you have to come back here and,
But I think,
because our permit would be conditioned on that, and
Sure.
it would be a condition that you couldn't possibly meet because town wouldn't allow you to do it. I'd be surprised if they said no to it though.
yes,
Okay. So what do you recommend doing then? Holding off until I can at least talk to the building owner? Postpone this until the next meeting? What would be the
You know what,
better solution?
I'll defer to our town planner because he's the one who coordinates with all the boards, and obviously it's not just our board you're dealing with at this point. So I would defer to his recommendation because he's going to be the one talking to the other folks.
I mean, it's up to you, the applicant, whether you want to request an extension from this board, but they can vote it with that condition, and then you can move on to the next step. I mean, this has been a long process. I think everyone would like the issue resolved, and if there's, in the big picture, this is a small item. Yeah, it's another couple steps to go to get approval from the select board, and a little extra expense to put in the guardrail, but if they want to, and I think the town wants this issue resolved, in order to move it forward, I think it would be best to do it now, finish the drawings, get it submitted to the planning board, we can get it reviewed, get it through the planning board, and then file with the conservation once you have those drawings.
Okay, it sounds like that this is pretty much going to be it or nothing.
I can't answer that question.
So-
There's 5 people who are voting here, so.
I mean, it's up, if you want to have it continued, that's fine, but I
If you
think,
don't feel comfortable, you can ask for a continuance, which, if you don't feel comfortable, I would recommend asking for a continuance. You should not ask us to vote on something you're not prepared to.
Well, I guess what I'm afraid of is the building owner can come back and say, well, we won't do anything. And that doesn't solve any of the problems.
Then we're right back where we started.
Then we're right back at the beginning.
I don't
Well-
think a 4x6 pressure-treated guardrail is that expensive. In the grand scheme of things, what he's spending for the Title V compliance, the stormwater management, the paving, your engineering, it's a small drop in the bucket. So that's my opinion.
But I can appreciate his position. At the end of the day,
Yeah, absolutely.
it may only be a nickel, but it's not his nickel.
I agree.
He's agreed.
Correct.
So
I
that's-
feel
yeah.
uncomfortable spending somebody else's
Well,
time
except-
without
except-
consulting with them.
except for the fact that I think as the board, and as recommending to the board feels comfortable issuing the variance, but only with a guardrail to ensure that this solves the problem going forward, then I think the board, just as the planning board should make it a requirement for this permit, regardless of whether the owner wants to spend a little extra money on a guardrail or not. So, I mean, planning boards and sometimes zoning boards require conditions that either generally the applicants aren't like super happy about, but they will do because they want their projects to be approved.
We're going to be looking for some condition that's going to permanently stop the parking where it's not supposed to be. This sounds like probably the safest way to make sure that
Yes.
that doesn't happen.
And if they don't want to do it here, well, when they get to the planning board, the same condition will probably be attached to the permit, so.
Is the building owner nearby? Does he live in there?
The building owner's in Atlanta.
So that would
Could
not
we
be the
continue
hearing.
this till the end of the hearing? Could you make a phone call? Do you have time to do that?
There's only one other group after me, or?
We have some stuff. It's going to be more than a 5-minute after you. So if you wanted to make a phone call and reach out to,
I'll tell you what, I'm here, this is what I'm supposed to be doing on this trip, so let me make a phone call first. I kind of wish you would have given me a heads up, like yesterday. It would have helped. If I can get a hold of the building owner, then I will come back. If I can't, then,
We'll continue.
then we'll have to continue it.
your call. You got to do what you're comfortable doing.
Okay.
Either way.
If I can get a hold of the building owner and get an answer one way or the other, then I'll do that. I'll try right now.
Guess what? We're not going anywhere. We have other business, so.
I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing until the
Well,
end of,
Well, I think it's continuing.
You
We're
wanna
not closing
continue
it.
it?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not closing it.
All
We're
right.
just gonna open another hearing and we can come back. We don't need to continue because
All right.
if we continue for 5 minutes. So your hearing's still open. Go do what you need to do and we're gonna open the next agenda item, actually. We're gonna discuss the next agenda item.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next agenda item is residences at LeBaron Hills LLC. And what we left off after the last meeting in August was that we were going to do a little research and start the process of looking for peer review on a number of items in that project. So Mark, could you update us on where we are with that at this point?
So I've spoken,
It's just an update.
yes,
No,
this
you
is
don't need to
not,
leave the
this is
room.
not,
No,
you
no.
continued the public hearing until October.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you don't need to walk out.
This is just on the, just like an update to the board, really. And so, so you asked me to find out about engineering services for the board to review the project. So as a result of calling some other town planners, I got a list of other engineering firms, many of which I already knew, that kind of provide a comprehensive review services. They have a traffic engineer on site, they have wetlands people, they have civil engineers. So, I've then spoken to a couple of those people, and I'm waiting proposals, you know, their cost breakdown per person, and different in these firms, different people make different rates. So they'll be sending me that, at which time we can review those at the hearing. I will forward them to Mohammed as well. I've also spoken to a sort of local engineering firm that provides inspectional services for, you know, construction inspections during, you know, construction, because that is something the planning board's looking for as well. The firm, although I haven't received the proposal, they do Middleborough's construction inspections for roadways and other things. So, so that's kind of where we're at right now.
So we're researching and doing our due diligence, and our goal would be to have the potential firms that would be available
That's correct.
for us next meeting, so
Yep.
that they can start their peer reviews and we can get to the next step with LeBaron.
That's correct. So what I'll do is I'll email out to the board those proposals once I receive them and share them with Mohammed. And unless there's some objection about a particular engineering firm, you know, I would suggest we could let him pick one of them. I mean, their prices may be slightly different, but they're probably going to be fairly similar.
I think that's what we should do anyways. As long as they meet our criteria and we're comfortable with them, let him choose who he wants to pay,
Yeah,
because he's paying the bill.
yeah. So,
Okay.
but I am soliciting proposals from firms that provide multiple services.
Good.
And he is in the process of having the traffic report prepared. So that will take some time because they have to run traffic counts and, you know, and data and stuff like that. So,
Very good. All right, next agenda item is, we have some meeting minutes to approve from August 18th. Everyone review those, and if so, would anyone like to make a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
My second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We have, well, we're getting ready to go to our next agenda item, which is 6, but were we able to get in contact with anyone?
I was not. I tried to phone and text him.
Okay, do you want to wait a little bit and try again, or do you want to ask for, I believe, I get the impression you're going to ask for continuance if you can't get a hold of the...
They're on the same time zone we are right now.
All right, again, no rush. We have a couple other things, so just let...
Yeah, 20 minutes.
If we're here for 20 minutes, great. If we're not, we'll let you know when we're going to close the meeting. How's that sound?
That sounds great, thank you.
Okay, Mark,
yes.
let's discuss the adoption of the Mullen Rule. And I think the first thing we need to do is explain the Mullen Rule so everyone knows exactly what it is and then whether we adopt it or not.
So the Mullins Rule is a statute that was passed, I don't know, 20 years ago, that allows a board member of a board holding hearings, such as the zoning board, planning board, conservation commission, to have a regular member miss a meeting. Normally, if you miss a meeting, you can no longer vote on an application. So, for example, you're going to have a very long hearing process with a 40B project and over multiple meetings. And if a regular member misses a meeting, they can no longer vote. Mullins Rule lets them go to the review all the documentation that's been submitted, minutes of the meeting, or watch the video if we have it, and go to the town's clerk's office, sign a form saying that I certify that I've reviewed all the information that was presented at the meeting, and they will be allowed to then vote on that application when the hearings are complete. The only thing is, you can only miss that one meeting. If you miss 2 meetings, you can no longer vote. So generally, if they're adopted in a community, oftentimes they're adopted at least by the planning board, sometimes the zoning board, as well as Concom.
So in a nutshell, historically, if you miss any meeting or any part of a meeting, you have to not participate in voting on that petition. But to Mark's point, sometimes we have hearings that go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and unfortunately, when you're on a board that needs 5 people to vote, if you miss one meeting, it kind of can create a little havoc. So I think personally it makes a lot of sense to adopt this rule to avoid complications. We have had situations with the zoning board where we've had only 4 members at a meeting for whatever the case may be, and if it's a long one and someone misses one of those meetings, any one of those meetings, it really puts us in a predicament. So
all 4 have to be at the next hearing, and the next hearing,
and the next, yeah. So any questions for Mark, or discussions or thoughts on whether we should adopt this rule?
It's a no-brainer.
I think we should adopt it.
I think we should too.
Yeah.
So the planning board has sent a article for the Mullins rule to the selectmen to be placed on the warrant, with the note on the memo saying that and it's an adoption of the statute for specific boards, and the boards get listed in the warrant article. So we will, if you vote for this, we will send a memo to the select board asking them to add the zoning board to the warrant article.
Do I have a motion to recommend that request the selectmen to add the zoning board as one of the boards that is able to adopt the Mullins rule?
I make that motion.
Do you have a second? Come on, Chris, you thought it was a great idea.
Second. Thanks for talking me into it.
I had to twist your arm really hard on that one. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That is a very good rule, because if not, if you only have 4, you gotta have 100%. You have to have a super majority.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, we've never run into the issue as far as I can remember, and for good, better or worse, I've been on this board for a while. We've actually, I think, delayed starting hearings because we haven't had enough folks in the event that if it carries forward type of a deal. So I think it's definitely a smart move on our part. Our next agenda item is everyone, I believe, received a resume and an email from Anthony Zucco regarding his interest in an opening for an associate on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I did ask him to show up because I know we've had people in the past who've been interested, and we've always wanted to have a chance to ask him some questions. I was under the assumption he was going to be here, but hopefully nothing bad happened. But
You want to re-invite him for next month?
well, should we re-invite him? You guys have the resume. I thought his resume looked good. I thought
didn't see his resume.
He's
not an engineer, is he?
Electrician.
Jeff would not allow another engineer on this board.
We're safe.
Jeff would not allow
Sorry, Jerry,
another.
had to get that in there.
crowd, man.
Yeah, he had a very nice cover email, and he seems, I think he would be an asset to this board. Again, I was hoping he was going to be here this evening, but if you are so inclined, yes, I will extend an invitation again for him to come to the next meeting. Unless I hear anyone against that, I will assume that we're good with that.
Both.
Fine.
Sounds good.
Good.
So we'll reach out to him again. All right. We've lost our, well, he's either
No,
trying
it looks like
to,
he's on the phone.
I think he's possibly
Talking.
trying to convince them of
Well, that's,
what.
Seems like a
Chris-
no-brainer, just,
Yeah, it should be a very,
I think it is, but
I mean, come on.
can appreciate his
Hesitation.
position. And I know where you're coming from. It's like,
Yes.
listen, this is what we are probably going to require, but it's not his money to spend, so I
Well-
think he'd probably feel a little safer if
yeah,
they
he
gave him a
lives
yes
on,
anyway.
if you don't do it,
Betty's
the
Neck
problem's
Road.
never gonna go away.
yeah.
That's the bottom line. They'll keep parking in the street.
So, I didn't know we could require.
is there enough room
Put a
on that
guardrail
street
or something of that
to
structure on something that.
park next to
Whether
the
you can or
guardrail?
not,
And now you're creating.
the planning board the
For
planning board
trucks.
I mean, there's only so
definitely
much you can do, I guess, right? I mean, you can put it right up against them, people are parking in the, you know, you want to do it enough to, yeah, I know, I think you're saying is, listen,
The planning board
half the
definitely
car
can
on the
mitigate
grass,
the
half the
impact
car
of
on the.
No, I'm,
Okay,
so
so
my thought is then it
the zoning
does
board
it
still wants to
become
approve it without that
a
condition.
law enforcement
That's
issue at that
fine.
point? Because now it's a.
He's at
Well, you can't park in a public road, right?
You guys can.
I mean, you can, but you can't park in the public.
This is
No, that's what I'm
exactly,
saying.
so you can as well, so.
Okay, here we go.
All right, they would agree to it.
Okay, so you're a good salesman as well,
As long
huh?
as it's not granite,
No.
or some sort of monument balustrade or
We just,
anything like that.
I'm guessing the condition would be we want some type of guardrail there. You'll have to make sure the selectmen don't require granite, but I'm pretty sure they would do that. That would be my guess, so.
Okay.
Sculpted bust of Jeff. being post.
Every 15 feet.
Down the road.
Different positions during his life, I can see it now.
That thing would get knocked over in the first weekend,
You
so
can-
you get into that.
You can use posts and 8-foot 2x6s or 2x8s.
Yeah, 4x6
Make it pressure treated, make it nice.
We'll look at some options. We have a roadway division in our company, and they can actually figure out what it would be.
You're gonna have, that's,
But I'm
You can tell
assuming
me-
it's not something like an impact guardrail, which
No,
is
no.
engineered for highways.
No,
This would be
right.
just something simple, correct?
we are looking just something simple to prevent people from parking.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay.
So that's all this board's potentially gonna condition it for, so.
Even a fence.
I don't know
Stick
if
with
you
the
want.
guardrail.
Yeah, stay with the guardrail.
I think you want to stick with the guardrail
Yeah,
too.
stick with the guardrail, yeah, that's a mess, so, okay. You had some conditions that you
Oh, yeah,
brought up
just-
very nicely, so
Oh, so you want me to make the motion?
if you're, well,
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
if you wanna
That's
make.
fine. Does anybody else have any other conditions they want to get in before I make a motion? All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the application as submitted, subject to.
amended?
As
77%.
amended. Thank you, Kathy.
77%, yeah.
Subject to approval by the other boards and departments, and then local, state, and federal ordinances, because you got all those other things to comply with. And that's pretty standard. And then with a guardrail as defined by the town planner, pressure treated to the length that you, pressure treated 4x6 minimum, to the length that
Well,
you so
when I
desire.
say wood guardrail.
Wood guardrail
Wood
sounds good.
guardrail is a standard wood guardrail. And
Does-
as, you know, as approved by the Board of Selectmen, because the final
There you
approval
go.
would go to the Board of Selectmen.
Does the board have standard details?
I don't believe so, but you can submit something.
Okay.
Motion made,
Motion made.
do we have a second?
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, so.
Great.
One down, you get a couple more to go. Just for your clarification.
Yes.
The reason the town planner brought that up today and not yesterday to you was because I had told them we probably should make sure we have some way to prevent that from happening. So this wasn't something he would have known about ahead of time.
That's fine. I've worked with Mark now for. a
No,
number of
I
months.
just.
I'm not
yeah.
worried about
Yeah,
that.
no, I
just-
want to make sure you
I-
realize that Mark is cheering and helping you move along as much as possible.
My concern was being prepared with an answer for you tonight.
My point is, he wouldn't have known that that was
Okay.
something we were concerned about until we got here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're
We
welcome.
Appreciate it, and,
Hey, if you need to, get a second career, you can go into sales. It seems like it only took you 10 minutes to convince them to spend more money.
Don't do
you know,
it.
fortunately, they're developers, so they understand the cost of development and owning buildings.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those costs. So,
This is probably a small headache to them in the big picture.
probably, yes. And the tenants absolutely do need the parking, and I think that's the right way to go.
Great.
So,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. I
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, guys. October 20th is our next meeting.
That's gotta be
Anything
a big
else?
one, right?
Well, it's gonna be the start of stuff, so, yeah.
If LeBaron's ready, you think LeBaron will be ready, or
They
you
will
think
be
they're
ready.
gonna continue?
They won't be ready.
Yeah, I think you may want to come in and discuss and present some, to keep it moving, but he
Remember, he
probably,
needs to have that peer review
he
done.
probably won't,
In order
well,
to
he
really
probably
get
won't, yeah, he's clearly not gonna have the drawings far enough along in order to be sent out for peer review by the next meeting. He will not have probably the traffic study completed by the next meeting because that takes time in order to complete. So he may not have a lot of new information to present, but he may still want to discuss certain elements of his project with you and in order to keep it moving. Again, it kind of depends on, how he progresses with
So to
plans
answer
over
the
next
question
few
someone
weeks.
just asked, there'll be more people at the next meeting than there were. That's
Yes.
a fair
Yes.
statement, I think. Right, Kathy?
There's one cricket in the back of the room.
One also.
Yeah, well, next meeting will be busier. Okay,
Yeah, if he does request an extension, we will do our very best to get the word out to the neighborhood, so.
Yeah.
So
We can
all
do
those
that.
people don't
Right.
show up. Need-
Yell at John again.
I
That was
think we can
terrible.
do that.
Yes.
All right, well, since the next one's gonna be a little longer, let's end this one. Anyone wanna make a motion
So
to
made.
adjourn? Second,
I think that.
any further discussion, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned at 7:54, less than an hour.
Okay,